Hi everyone, my name is Victoria Miami. I work in the Barclays Payments Marketing team. I'm also a member of the BPRG, which is the Black Professionals Resource Group, which is one of the fabulous ERGs James told us about earlier. And we put this event on today, Black History Month, and also to introduce you all to Mary. So, hi Mary. Can you tell us a little bit briefly about yourself and your book?
Okay. Feels like an abrupt change from like 4 people to like, yeah, so even I'm trying to get my mind back, but it's great to be here. I didn't realize there's these many people behind me, but hi everyone. So my name is Mary Adeyemi. I am a banker turned learning and development consultant. And what I do really in my now not full-time business is to work with professionals to help them build what I call purposeful, profitable, and progressive careers. And I also work with very employee-centric organizations to create programs focused on learning that also help, train staff in the way that they're supposed to be and can give them the tools that they need to be successful at work, but also really keep engagement and retention in the organization. And I really just transitioned to doing this full time, I would say 4 months ago, something like that. But I have been running my business for the last 7 years, but doing that alongside a full-time job in banking as a risk manager. So I started my career in 2005. So a while back, sort of interning and doing the things, and then I started full-time in 2008 in Bank of America. We're just sort of down the road somewhere around here then in Canary Wharf, and then spent 10 years there in risk management, and then moved to Goldman for the last few years of that part of my career. And yes, so I'm really excited about sort of the transition and chatting a little bit about that.
Thank you. And kind of just on that, you said you've been doing this for 4 months full time, but some of us have been following for a very long time. So I'm really glad to be here to this stage. And I guess one thing I wanted to talk about was your book, Visible Strengths.
Yeah.
And in the opening of your book, I came across a phrase you used where you described in your time at Bank of America, I believe, you felt hyper visible, but also unseen at the same time. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Yes. So a little more context. I'm an author. So I wrote a book called Visible Strengths, and actually today is actually 1 year that we've been on the market. Today is like Visible Strengths' birthday. So if you're following us on Instagram, you can see yeah, so I was like, oh my God, it's my brainchild's birthday today. So it's a bit of so all the Instagram aunties and uncles have been sending sort of, yeah, congratulations. It's been quite surreal. And so Visible Strengths is a book about how career professionals in particular, those who are sort of starting out in their career, can accelerate their career, by doing 3 things, by learning how to capitalize on their strengths, contribute value, and communicate results. And so, yeah, so what Victoria was asked is so in the introduction, one of the things that, as I was reflecting and writing the book, I was thinking about sort of those first few years and feeling like, bear in mind, this is, call it 2008, middle of the financial crisis. I was a sort of dot on the floor that looked very basically, you basically walk into the room and say the black girl, and everyone would know exactly where the black girl was, because there's no other black girl, there's no other black person, shall we say, on the floor at the time. And so I always felt like it was so easy to spot me in a room, and I was always just there. But every sort of performance review, I would always get the feedback, so you need to be more visible, you need to be more visible. I'm like, hello, So I always felt the sort of sense of, I guess, the word that, culture kind of provided for that is what we call hyper-visibility. I didn't really know there was a word like that at the time. But yeah, so you stand out naturally because of how you look and, things like that. But I also felt like I was always getting feedback, like people just did not know who I was and the like. And so, I really internalized that feedback, actually. I thought, am I invisible? Like, it's just sort of weird. And I think because I'm Nigerian by birth, I didn't have racial conversations growing up. It was just not a thing. I mean, I had gender conversations and what I should be doing or not doing as a woman, but I never had racial conversations. So coming into the workplace, I was like, so in my mind, I was thinking, so is it really true, like these things that you hear on the street, like is it really true that you can be around so many people and still feel like no one sees you? And so I really internalized that as what was going on around me. And then many years later, I think it started clicking actually what they were trying to say without really having the right words to say. It was like, we can see you, it's not like we don't see you, like we can see you physically, but we don't know what you do every single day. Like when you show up, like we can't associate your presence with your delivery, like with your work. And so oftentimes when, I think, many of the people in the room feel like that way, but the point is just, what are you doing that people care about? So you could be doing a lot of what I call busy work, but are you doing valuable work? And so that's kind of where that came from, and also the light bulb moment that came after that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I think lots of people probably relate to that, right? I've had similar experiences myself. I think the common theme I keep seeing today is it's important to be seen, right? But also that personal brand, what you're known for, what people call on you to do. And I guess just on that, in your book, it's all about strengths and knowing yourself inside out. How would one person do an audit of their natural talents? For those of us who might not know, what am I really good at, or how would I really start myself? How would you do that?
That's a great question. I mean, I write extensively about this in Invisible Strengths. So we talked a lot about strengths. Maybe for the first 5 chapters of the book, because it is so important, that your career really should sit on the foundation of who you are fundamentally and not sort of somebody else. It's like, it's not smart to build your career on somebody else's life and not yours. And I think that's basically sort of inherently the message of Invisible Strengths. And so, how do you do that practically then is, probably, I talk about 3 reasons in the book, and is one, spend time with yourself, sort of that introspection, success or strength, shall we say, leaves clues. So there are things that, even just sitting with yourself and thinking about it, you probably figure out, some of the things you do. And so I provided sort of strengths buckets around like, your knowledge, what do you know, your attributes, who are you fundamentally, your skills, what can you do, your history or experience, what have you done before, what do you do at home, and don't leave out like important job experiences like, how you run your home and how you're the chief operating officer of your family, because bills don't get paid and nobody eats if you're not there. That's extremely important experience that you can actually bring into the workplace. But even like experience from, potentially sectors that they don't feel, related. We could learn so many different sort of transferable skills, from there. And then, finally I talk about like, what are your interests, like what are the things that excite you or build curiosity within you. But beyond just spending time with yourself, definitely asking other people around you. I think a lot of us have blind spots, right? We have things that we do naturally, but because we do them so naturally, we don't stand out to us. And so maybe asking those kind of questions with your friends, I remember asking one of my friends, I was like, what problem would you be having for me to be your first phone call? We all have like friends that we call when it's like the dating question. We have the friend that we call when we talk about God. You have the friend you call when you want to go for a night out. You have the friend when when it's a family thing, because in those people you've actually identified a level or quality, or wisdom around that subject area. You are that friend in a specific area for somebody else, and that's obviously a good question to ask. But also just reaching out to like, whether it's family, colleagues, friends, what 3 words would you use to describe me? Ask a plethora of questions. I mean, Invisible Strength, I'm gonna give like sort of 10 different questions that you could potentially ask to do that. And also reviewing feedback, in environments like this, we're being given feedback all the time, whether it's just sort of interim feedback or feedback like through the formal process. So actually read between the lines of what people are saying, what words are they using to describe it. I think all of those are helpful. And the final way, final way I wrote in the book, I'm sure there are other ones, is to, also leverage things like psychometric assessments. Have people heard of like MBTI and Gallup Strengths Finder and things like that? If you haven't, there's some that really free and available tools you can use. So 16personalities.com is definitely one you can use. Gallup Strengths Finder, so the top 5 strengths. It's probably like 20 pounds, something like that to get it done. So these are like very small investments, but that will yield the results in sort of the self-discovery, which is sort of like super key. And I love psychometric assessments because it's based off science, and that's also how my brain works. But beyond that, it gives you language. Sometimes you're like, I can't think I do this well, but psychometric assessments will tell you that, you actually, someone like you would probably do, you do this well, and someone like you is successful in these types of environments. So, yeah, lots of different ways, but yeah, I think you be successful, you do it.
You love psychometric assessments.
Yeah. I like human psychology. I think let's put it that way. I think psychometric assessment is like a reflection of that. I'm a people watcher. I just love seeing like how, this is why I watch Real Housewives of like wherever, because I just sit down and think, what is going on in this person's head? Why do they behave like, and I'm just trying to understand a little of just, behavioral science. I think that's really where it comes from.
Behavioral science. And I think that links with the point about emotional intelligence we had earlier. How are we doing the time? Are we okay? Okay. One more question, and then I'll open it to the floor just in the interest of time. I guess I would say at Barclays, and actually in finance in general, but what about leveling up, upscaling, bettering ourselves in doing, I guess, more in the workplace? What are some of the things somebody should do to level up in their career, maybe secure a promotion, make them next steps?
Okay, so specific to promotion, the panel that was just before, just excellent, talked about so many different things that I would say, pushing beyond, like going beyond sort of what is required, stepping outside of the box, making me ask, all of those things. But I think that, I'll share a quick story. I think I'll sort of draw 3 lessons I think that would really be helpful. I remember sort of co-managing someone a few years ago. And in our conversations, like, she had her primary manager, so sort of like what we call like a manager mentor kind of character. Anyway, so we would have these conversations, I would have these really honest conversations, and she would tell me about how, she thinks she can do her job well, but she just really struggles with certain things, and she just, and I would talk about like, what are the next steps for you in the next, and she just, I just want to do this for another, maybe another year just to build sort of skill and all of that type of stuff. And I just think like, it's so interesting that she actually thinks like she's not ready for self-promotion. But at the time, I think I didn't just met her, and I didn't know enough about sort of her skill set to say, hey, I actually think that you are, so I couldn't counter it. So I just sort of let it be for a bit. And over the next few weeks, we just kind of started having more and more conversations, and it just seemed that she was just vehemently like, I'm not really ready for this, and we'll deal with it sort of when we need to deal with it. Okay, cool. 4 months later, I didn't get a call from her manager saying like, oh, she didn't get promoted in this round, and she was like super upset. I was like, what? I'm a little bit confused. Like, why are you super upset? But it kind of went down this whole like, rabbit hole of like, why you're upset? Like, I thought I was going to get it. I expected I was going to get it. I've already done 3 years. I kind of hit the markers, and I just thought, but that's not how it works. And so in there sort of lies sort of 3 lessons I thought, would be really helpful to share here around promotion specifically. Is number 1 is just sort of that promotion mindset. It's so difficult to convince everybody that you're ready for a promotion if you don't believe that you are. So there has to be that sort of moment in time where they say, you know what? I may not have all the boxes ticked, but I'm going to go for this anyway, right? And the same goes for even like getting a new role outside of the bank or, exploring other things. It's just, you have to basically be like 1,000% convinced. Like you need to buy your own Kool-Aid. You have to be your own first investor. You have to be your own first customer. And so mindset is definitely important. And I think the other thing that trips people up is just sort of, I guess, their own sort of mastery of different elements. So whether it's like self-mastery, like what am I actually delivering? What are my own capabilities? What do people say, about me, like in terms of like my credibility? Really understanding the specific contributions that you're making in the organization, and not just, again, not busy work, but actually things that are moving the organization forward strategically. It's so important to master that, but beyond that, there's the politics of the promotion, right? So there's the politics of the promotion in terms of who are your stakeholders, who is on the table, who's making decisions, who's opposing you, who's advocating for you, who's neutral on you. Because people who are neutral on you can be super dangerous, because one day they can either become advocates or they can become opposers, right? So there's a little bit of like the dynamics and the management of that that parents be aware of, but also just like the system in which promotions happen within the organization. Do you know the time that promotions are announced? If you work backwards, do you know when the decisions are made? Then if you work backwards, do you know when to start having the conversations? Do you know? So all of those things is sort of a map. So if you're thinking about getting promoted in the next 6 months to 1 year, you have to literally do a timestamp so that you can act accordingly. And the final thing I'll say during that conversation just around messaging, the biggest failure for that, Anita was just talking about, was the way she was communicating, or lack thereof. She just never said she wanted a promotion. In fact, she was saying almost the contrary. So, and it was said on this panel, right? Like, don't expect anyone, I think it was James, like, don't expect anyone to be thinking about you. No one is thinking about anybody else but themselves. That's just a fact, right? So don't expect anyone to be thinking about whether or not this person is ready for a promotion or not. Like, you have to say, hey, I am ready. Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is, keep that, communicate around like your readiness for promotion, communicate around like, get clarity on the process, get clarity on the metrics, get clarity on decision makers, like continue to like have the conversation, and have everything in writing. Like this is war. This is how I think about it. Like it has to be literally that deep. It's like trying to get a promotion is a new job, right? It's the same way you're gonna think about getting a job, like get all the things on the paper, do the CV, do all of that. A lot of us don't think about promotions like that. We just think, oh, it's just the next level, but it's actually a new job. So take it as seriously as that. But in the end, also resilience, right? Because even if you do everything, there's still lots of factors that come into play. So you just have to be able to do it in a healthy way, and get ready to do it again if you need to do it again. But yeah.
Thank you for that answer. I guess one way to sound really confident when going over things in your career is to know your strengths. So recommend you guys also do an audit of personal strengths that told us. I guess I would say just before we close, I'd like to open up the floor, see if anyone has any questions for Mary, based on anything she said so far today.
3 questions.
3 questions, okay. I'll let Michaela back handle them.
Thank you, Mary.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sir. Sorry.
Thank you. Hello. Okay, hi. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Victoria. Great discussion. I just wanted to find out, what systems did you put in place to help you run your business whilst you were still working full-time?
Ooh. What systems did I put in place? Good question. Difficult answer. What systems did I put in place? Other systems varied over time, right? So there was a time where I kind of had a bunch of, I had a team, I had people working with me to get things done. And so when I was at work, they would be getting things done, then. There was also a system of not taking too much on, because we have a full-time role, there's only so much, you can do. Batching work was also a big thing. I would do a bunch of things over the weekend and just make sure they're ready to go and put everything on autopilot, shall we say, to get things out. But yeah, difficult question to answer. Try not to get myself into trouble as well, so I need to kind of be careful how I answer this question. But invariably, just having people around you, not taking on too much, and trying to do the work when you can, when you have time, do as much of it as you can, because there will just be times when I'll have a peak season at work, which is pretty much all the time. But yeah, there was just not much else I could do.
Okay, thank you. Just a follow-up, did you ever experience burnout? And if you did, how did you?
All the time. super, super unhealthy. I mean, I write, in one of the chapters, talk about health, the chapter on health. And it was interesting because the chapter on health, invisible strengths, was talking about just really just health and productivity. And that was probably one of the hardest chapters to write. I had a lot of content for that chapter, but it was a very difficult chapter to write simply because I had just come off from major surgery just as I was writing that chapter. And I was having like what basically a mental breakdown as I was writing the chapter. And I remember thinking, I was saying to my publisher, every time you send me a message, I have like a heart condition or something. Like I just, every time I see your email, you're freaking me out. So you just need to go away. And so actually thinking about it really enough, it's kind of making me a little emotional, but it was just such a difficult time. But it meant I had to, in that moment as I was writing the chapter, basically live what I was saying, right? You can't take on too much. Learn to know when to say, it's enough. Learn to stop. Learn to listen to your body. And I had to ask for a 3-month extension just because of that, in the middle of writing the health chapter. So it's a bit sort of odd that was happening then. But you have to learn to deal with sprains before they become breaks. You need to know what sets you off. You need to know how to rest. You need to know how to take things on. I say to the people that work with me now, I don't work weekend. Even now, I work 4-day weeks. I try to do certain things and I'm like, I'm not going to replicate my life in banking whilst running my business. It's just not going to happen. And so I try to really, even though it's hard, because actually, if you're running your business, you probably work 10 times harder than when you're working for a company, because you're constantly thinking about it and the buck stops with you. But listen to your body, do the needful, sleep a lot, exercise, eat well, all of those things. I think all of that really helps.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions. So sorry to do suddenly, but I will add that we do have some time for networking and professional stuff for this final panel. So you can still grab them, please.
Just on that, we are finished or welcome to the next panel now. I just wanted to put this slide up on the screen so if anyone is interested in hearing a little bit more about Mary or checking out the book, just stand there. Thank you, everyone.